Well, good morning and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Well, if you're just watching this, congratulations. You made it to the end of 2025. I know you're tuned into the right program here. Well, you didn't just do that with fireworks, but with the Nigerian kind of applause. Just one hand up, a slight nod, and a very deep sigh. Because between fuel prices, food prices, policy confusions, and emotional fatigue, we are still here, like it or not. Still laughing, still arguing on WhatsApp, still promising ourselves that next year will definitely be different. That right there, that's the Nigerian superpower.
Absolutely. So now, let us take you back at the year and looking at what 2025 in total was. With this shaggy in our eyes, we began 2025 with tax reforms, and what should have been technical became political. Governors pushed back. Abuja pushed forward. Nigerians quietly calculated how it would affect the price of garri and rice the next morning. Well, come tomorrow morning, the 1st of January, we're bound to find out the implications of the tax reforms on the prices of things. So hold on tight, folks.
Then the streets spoke, and bad governance was not just a fancy protest, it was frustration that could no longer afford silence. It was students, office workers, people who still had to return to work afterwards, because this year, we realized something very interesting. We realized that dissent was how the presidency got here in the first place. So the youth, well, they were suddenly checkmated at their own game. Warnings followed, arrests followed, stability became the official language, but hunger, well, that remained the unofficial one.
And then, River State, that definitely turned into a national theater. Fubara versus Wike, Godson versus Godfather. So confusing that even people in Port Harcourt needed a calendar to know who was in charge most times. And then came the emergency rule with the word sole administrator on everyone's lips. Democracy was paused. Well, depending on who you ask. Months later, it was lifted, and then the courts came and, spoke about that. But the question stayed. The question was, and is Nigeria's power really about the ballot or about proximity to the center?
Good question there. And just when our drama felt complete, well, the world joined in. In the United States, lawmakers, well, they revived claims of a so-called Christian genocide in Nigeria. And our government, well, while we rejected it, religious leaders as well rejected it, Nigerians debated it every single place, whether in church, mosques, at barbershops, and on social timelines. But what did we really need? We didn't need labels. We didn't need megaphones. We needed a system that protects people before hashtags are created for them on Truth Social.
And then security came back to the top. Well, never really went behind the radar. Students were abducted in Niger State. Released later, yes, but families never forget moments like that. The trauma. And then talk about Nnamdi Kanu's court verdict. Split opinions. In Nigeria, court rulings rarely end debate. What they do is that it then moves them to WhatsApp group chat.
You're right there, Olive. And then, of course, let's not forget oil, Dangote refinery, NMDPRA, allegations, counter-allegations. Then there was silence. Not because questions weren't asked, but because they were retired or just simply removed. Meanwhile, the man selling petrol at the corner kept on his business as if to say, touch me if you dare, because I know what you did last summer.
But through all of this, Nigerians kept living. Every Saturday, weddings were happening. People were dying and we were burying them. We joked, we laughed, we hustled, and in typical Nigerian spirit, we adapted.
Well, here is what 2025 leaves us with. Resilience is not a policy, endurance is not a development plan, and silence is not constant. So as the year ends, the questions are simple. Who does the system listen to? Why is due process optional? And how long will the ordinary Nigerian keep paying for power games he did not design?
2025 did not break Nigeria. What it did is that it exposed it. And exposure, uncomfortable as it is often the first step towards accountability.
So with that, ladies and gentlemen, the 2025 season of Hot Topics comes to a close as we look forward to 2026 with optimism this time for Nigeria's future. So, welcome.
I was thinking you would say, and with that, the 2025 season comes to an end.
Now that you've done it, let's say, welcome to Breakfast Extra.
Breakfast Central.
Central.
You're extra and I'll
You'll forgive me.
All right, yeah, Joe's back on set. the face you're used to seeing at this time of the morning. And in case you're wondering what's happening, today we're having a synergy of breakfast teams. Breakfast Central, which you see every Monday to Friday, and Breakfast Xtra, which you see Saturdays and Sundays. And we're coming together for this special edition. So welcome on set, for the first time, the hosts of Breakfast Extra, Judith Atibi and Mazino Appeal. Hello.
And of course, don't forget our very own Benga Borowa as well.
Oh, sorry, I forgot you were there, Benga. Well. I literally almost forgot you were there, Benga. I'm so sorry. Yeah. It's so good to see you.
I'm their host.
Good to see you guys, by the way. I mean, what does it feel like being here on a weekday, not on a weekend, Judith?
Well, I do have to say that it's been one of the experience. I mean, we saw this coming. We're excited for it, but it feels odd in some sense.
I know.
I don't know what the feeling is. I can't put a finger on it, but it feels odd, but also welcoming as well.
Do you want to switch?
Yes.
No, do you want to switch to weekday and leave weekends?
You're tempting her.
You're tempting me.
You're tempting her. Even I know that.
There's no switching. I am the captain.
Sorry, Captain.
I will tell you something. It's no different an experience. It's just a bit more buzz with you guys because there's all of you, and then I guess to each person here, there's two people who tends to you guys. Breakfast Extra, we tend to ourselves.
Yeah, it's very slim. It's a very slim team.
Yeah, like we're the Breakfast Central on a budget.
Yeah.
I said that, Mr. K. I said it, Mr. K. I'm sorry.
My mouth is sealed. I said
They served you guys coffee, by the way, and snacks this morning, because that's how we roll on breakfast.
It's okay.
Joe already brought his black card. He's covering that.
Olive, did you have to say that?
I have to tell them you have.
Anyway, to all our viewers who are watching us live, we're streaming on YouTube, X, name it. Drop your comments and let's read from you. We're looking at the top 10 biggest stories that made the headlines, not just this month or this week, but the entire 2025. We're going to start with number 10 right away. And let's go straight to it. Of course, every single person here in the studio will be analyzing these stories. So we're going back. You could say retrospect. Yes, that's what we're doing. So let's start off with number 10. At number 10, I'm not going to ask the guys what they think number 10 is and what you think number 10 is, but 2025 wasn't just about paying taxes. It was about rewriting the rules. Now, this year, Nigeria launched its most ambitious tax overhaul in decades, and the ripple effects, well, will just be beginning in 2026, which is
tomorrow.
A few hours from now. So, are you getting ready for the tax reforms kicking off in the new year? Now, that's a big question. But let's take a look at what went down this year concerning the tax reform.
I do not think that this is a legislative versus executive conversation. I do not think that's what it is. I think it's a process and a system issue that has to be addressed. And I don't think it's about finger pointing and looking for who to blame. Like what I said is, if you think about the process today, there's a lot of stages with manual hands-offs that anything can go wrong. So when you sit to discuss changes to the law as lawmakers, there's someone who is making notes who needs to go and update. You need to ensure that they're updating what they have been asked to. You finish that with House of Rep, you do almost the same thing for Senate, and then you harmonize, and then you also need people to update. And then you certify it, you send it, usually through the Ministry of Justice to go to Mr. President for assent. And once it's been signed, you will notice that the version that the president signs is a different format. You have to then put it in their gazetting format, which is also done, manually. And then that's sending from the president after assent for gazetting goes to Ministry of Information. Now, these different stages do not have the level of quality assurance that can make sure that these things never happen, not only for the tax bills, but for going forward. So which is why my preference is maybe we shouldn't waste this crisis, if you call it a crisis, and use it as an opportunity not only to identify if anything had gone wrong in this case that is substantial, address them, but more importantly, to strengthen that process going forward so that when we have laws, we know that these laws have not been tampered with in any way, form, or shape. And by the way, you said when the laws were being signed, and I've heard this also, the Senate president was there, the speaker was there, but if you are there when they're signing the law, you can't read 400 pages just because you're there. There's a process for finding out, the content of that. So I wouldn't say just the fact that the lawmakers were there and I was there meant that everybody confirmed that everything was fine. The same way I wouldn't say that, it wasn't fine, which is why I said let's wait for the outcome of the investigation.
Or breach of privilege has been committed, or referring the matter to the Committee of Ethics and Privileges. Still, if the matter is raised in the Committee of the Whole, the chairman shall leave the chair on the order to report progress. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I'm here today because my privilege has been breached as a member of this all-important House, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, we passed the tax laws on this floor, and Mr. Speaker, I took my time in the last 3 days to look at the gazetted past copy, the vote and proceedings of the House of Representatives, and also went an extra mile to look at the vote and proceedings of the Senate of what was harmonized. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, what I passed on this floor is not what is gazetted. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I have all the copies, but I'm coming under privilege because I was here, I gave my vote, and it was counted, and I'm seeing something completely different. So on that note, on this privilege, I will call on Mr. Speaker to graciously look at what was harmonized, what is in the gazetted copy, what was passed in the House and the Senate. You will find out what is before Nigerians, which is being sold to Nigerians at the Ministry of Information, which I personally went to buy the gazetted copies, are not what was passed. So there is no motion here, but Mr. Speaker, I'll be pleading that all the documents should be brought before the Committee of the Whole. The whole members should see what is in the gazetted, should see what they passed on the floor, so that we can make the relevant amendments. Mr. Speaker, this is a breach of the Constitution, this is a breach of our laws, and this should not be taken by this honorable House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I so move.
Thank you, Honorable Abdul Samad. Your observation is noted and action will be taken. I assure you that. Thank you.
All right, so that's just a roundup of what happened concerning the tax reform laws. I'm going to go straight to the guys in the studios. I'm starting off with Benga Aborowa.
Yeah, like so we heard it. We first heard from the tax czar, Taiwo Oyedele, and then the whistleblower, Honorable Abdulsamad Dasuki, talking about the tax reform laws, which are set to kick in less than 24 hours. Analysts have always been saying that Nigeria's tax to GDP ratio is really small and we could do more in terms of taxation. And the president came up with this tax reform committee, and they decided to come up with this new harmonized document. The FIRS from tomorrow will cease to be FIRS. It will now be the Nigeria Internal Revenue Services, and so many things happening there. The gist of the matter is you have to pay your tax.
You have to pay your taxes, whether you like it or not. I mean, I don't know.
They're widening the tax net.
Okay, Zeno, do you agree?
Well, I agree with everything, but I like to come from the small man perspective, because if you ask me, when it comes to tax reform, for businesses, they hear policy, but for the small businesses, they hear process. And it's not because they don't want to pay their taxes, it's just because they don't understand what's about to happen. And that's the mistake that the authorities are making. You're not educating the people. Because for the small business owner, what they hear when they hear about taxes or tax reform is that, I don't know what's happening here. I'm about to be drafted into a digital system I don't understand, quite frankly, since there's that move to digital. That's number one. Secondly, since they don't understand it, they'll fear what they know, which is the racketeering that comes with officials that are unscrupulous. And that there for them is the main problem. If you can educate them on exactly how it benefits them, cool. And if you can assure them that they won't have these issues of where unscrupulous officials will take advantage of the tax system and then get money from out of them, then you're in business. But that has not happened. I only have 2 minutes, so I can't speak too much. But I've got so much to tell about it.
Oh, I don't know what Judy thinks, though.
I mean, as you know, as rightfully said, that now what they're trying to do, I think the mantra here is pay now, trust later. And this is a gamble that we're heading into as we're going into 2025, because now they are set on it going into effect in January 1st. But I think one thing that we need to understand here is the precedence that this sets for our economic reforms for 2025, because Nigeria will have to, sort of prioritize fiscal survival as opposed to credibility and policy trust amongst the populace. And this matters a lot because when compliance is more considered as opposed to the credibility and trust of Nigerians, what's going to happen is that people are going into banks confused as to why money is being removed from their account or whether or not money is being refused. Small business would have to widen or increase their margins in terms of, final price on final products. And what we're going to see in the next in the next quarter will really justify whether or not they should have started or they should have just drawn back and continued with citizen education and re-education of this new tax policy. So it sets a gamble in terms of precedence, and only time will tell.
Well, thank you, gentlemen and lady, for sharing your thoughts. And definitely there has been lots of concern surrounding the conversations about tax. And in the next few hours, we'll get to see what that is. What we know for sure is that the implementation is going ahead, regardless of the discrepancies or the alleged, well, it's not alleged at this point, the discrepancies between what was gazetted and what was brought before the House. But the next few hours will tell. But let's now head to number 9. 2025 was the year Nigeria's political map looked more like a transfer season in the game of football. 1 minute they're red, the next minute they're blue, and then green. Who knows where next? From the National Assembly to state houses, defections became the hottest political trend. The All Progressives Congress, APC, welcomed the flood of new faces, some familiar, some surprising, as the ruling party tightened its grip ahead of 2027. So political transfers definitely has made it to number 9. Let's take a look at some of the very interesting moments. But we're going to break, and when we come back, we'll bring you all that. Stay with us.
Our chairman, national chairman, because there are some things people say in newspaper, there's confusion, there's a faction. As I've come, there will no more faction again. Confirm. Because let me tell you, APC is not like PDP. The governor takes charge. Yes. And we are taking charge. Yes. Is it not true? Whether the faction of the Vioma Gege, whether the faction of First of the Kiyamo, I don't believe in any faction. Yes. Everybody must queue. Yes. Everybody must queue. Yes. And we'll unite this state. Yes. To move this state forward. Thank you. For the benefit of this state, and it will bring development, it will bring peace, it will bring unity in Delta State and in Nigeria. Yeah.
Having completed the rounds of my consultation as your servant that you have elected to serve you, I have therefore decided to progressively move to the All Progressive Congress.
And the political transfer season, of course, made it to our number 9 story. Quite frankly, I think it might be one that will last all through 2026 as well. But let's hear what Judith, Mazino, and Benga have to say about this. Over to you, Judith.
Well, guys, I must say that this was not really about, ideals when it comes to, aligning yourself with a party. What we saw about the defections was really about trying to get access to the center. And this really shows that the way the center, and by center I mean federal might, has amassed power in the last 12 months and beyond is quite worrisome. And so the governors had to recalculate themselves and quickly defect. But there are 3 underlying realities that we have to point out here, this defection. The first is that the collapse of opposition utility. The opposition parties no longer offered governors meaningful leverage at the center. And the second is the rise of transactional politics that we've seen over ideological politics, which is supposed to be the ideal seeing that we practice democracy. And I think the third and most important for me is the normalization of defection as governance strategy. And this sets a serious precedence for us, because as we're seeing the different jerseys being changed and, the transfer windows, and carpet crossings, what we're seeing is that really and truly these are occupational politicians who do not care about the people at the center of it. And it's also concerning the power that the center holds. For me.
Interesting. I don't know, though. It's basically like Manchester United player moving from Man U to Chelsea. Benga, I don't know. I know you're a Newcastle fan.
So, I mean, what I'm seeing here is, they often say political parties are special purpose vehicles for politicians to get to their destination. What I'm seeing here is political balancing and alignment, because the politicians are always saying they want to align with the center. So they've gone to the workshop and they've looked at their tires that, look, if I want to align with the center, I might need to jump ship. And that's why we've seen this. There's also, Judy spoke about transactional politics, and that's where the politics of deodorization and also insecticization comes in, because it's transactional. There are people that have cases with the AFCC. Once they join that party, they use deodorants and they forget. And there are those that have the threat of, the likes of Malami, for example. If he was a member of the APC, would the AFCC be using their insecticide on him as we speak? At the end of the day, who has more to lose? The people. Where are the people in all of these defections? Why are you moving? And who decides who wins at the end of the day? I'm always pro-people. So we just wait and see what 2027 has in store for us.
Right.
Wow, actually, Benga, you took that right out of my mouth. It's all about the people, these coalitions. The point is, how many of these, who do we have in these parties? We've got David Mark, we've got, who else have we got? All these big names, Atiku, everybody coming in, El-Rufai coming in from different parties who held different ideologies from before. Now you're coming to one party and you haven't yet identified exactly three major things. What needs to change, how it needs to change, and who's going to pay the price of that change. So those are the big questions that they need to answer, especially who's going to lead, because it didn't seem like there was any talk about who the leader is going to be. And when you're crossing carpet from one party to the other, like Benga said, regarding the grassroots, you might make coalitions in Abuja and Kano or wherever, but are you making them back at home at the local government areas? Are the people following you when you're moving to these parties? You're just moving because of survival, but the real survival is the actual citizenry. If they can't join your ideology, then you don't have a party. So these are the little bits that need to be attended to before you can call the ADC a real coalition, if you ask me.
That's a deep one. But since you talked about the ADC, I think that makes our number 8, especially for looking at the year in review. I mean, Benga has touched on some of the very key points. Masino just said ideology. The question we were mostly asked during this year was, is there anything like political ideology in Nigeria?
I don't think there is. It's almost about everyone putting their personal interest above, or they'll tell you that their personal interest is colliding with the political interests. One of our colleagues, I don't know which of them, said, at the end of the day, we are the people in the midst of all of this. And I hope that Nigerian citizens will remember when going to the polls that politicians will always choose themselves first. So I hope you remember that when you're deciding who to, vote for when we get to the polls.
Anyway,
ADC.
Let's move on. That makes it to number 8. Yeah. Well, on the 2nd of July, 2025, a political event took place in the nation's capital, Abuja. That's what you see there on the screen. The African Democratic Congress, once a fringe party, became the unlikely epicenter of a new opposition alliance. Call it the Coalition of Comebacks. A powerhouse of political heavyweights united not by party lines, but by one mission: rescue Nigeria. That's what they said. Anyway, rebuild Nigeria is also another word they use. Return power to the people. Or, like one of the members said, return power to the people. And we said, okay, that's fine. So it consists of so many persons. Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi, we hear is moving next week, and so on and so forth. But then again, let's just bring a highlight of what happened, especially when that date indeed was written in history.
Okay, good day, ladies and gentlemen. Very soon, by the grace of God, we're going to start. So,
we all decided to resign so that he can pedal this canoe and get us to the villa. The endorsement that we got, and which we're today going to give to distinguished Senator David Mack as interim national chairman of ADC, also with the same mandate, the approval of Governor Ralph Aregbesola as national secretary.
Let history record that when our democracy faltered, we rose not in fear, but in faith. Let it be known today across Nigeria and beyond, the opposition is united. The platform is ADC. The time is now. The mission is clear. Rescue Nigeria, rebuild Nigeria, return power to the people.
ADC seemed to be the official party in the year 2025 with all the movings, the transfers to the ADC. But the question is, with all these big political figures coming, who is going to be the leader? And now, another question they kept saying was about the people, returning power to the people. Benga, do you genuinely believe that the ADC's move was about returning power to the people?
I think it's about getting power, but I'm not sure about returning power to the people. These are politically exposed individuals. They're strange bedfellows that just came together because of one reason only. Let's get the APC out of government. And we've been there before. If you remember when President Goodluck Jonathan was president, and I mean, with the luxury of hindsight, we can tell how that went. These are members of the APC. They were members of the APC just a few days ago. So what has changed? You look at an individual like Malam Nasir El-Rufai, who was even at Chatham House during the presidential campaigns. He was answering questions on behalf of President Tinubu. What happened? If he was made a minister, would he be in the ADC today? Would he be saying the things he's saying against the government? I would rather have a coalition of non-politically exposed persons to a certain degree, because Nigerians can tell that, look, you guys were on the same team a few days ago. What has changed? We want a different type of coalition. If you had a Konjo Iweala, for example, or Femi Adesina, and people, proven technocrats and people that really mean well for the people, then they can say, okay, we'll switch. But you don't want to go from fire pan to fire.
Benga, can I jump in there a second? Just, I'm sorry, I want to say this. I think when you call big names and you put them in a coalition, you're still trying to gather power from a center, whether you like it or not. Each of these people have tasted power one way or the other, and most of them have failed. So when you talk about a coalition that is powerful, yes, you have the ADC, but the truth is that for most people who are really inside of the suffering, you need to have built that power from the grassroots. And inside of that coalition, you don't have anybody who seems to stand for the average man, somebody who has built his own following from people who are at the local government levels all the way to the top. You don't have that because, and the truth is, the ordinary man will lose faith in the ADC eventually, because nobody there is like Jesus Christ coming to earth to suffer your sins and then, eventually be crucified for you. It's the same thing. These guys don't know what sufferment sounds like or feels like.
Maybe to butt in, Mazino, the question I always like to ask, when we talk about this, who is going to be the front runner? You have so many people.
Maybe Judith has the answers.
Judith, I don't know. Who's going to be the front runner?
Do you have the answers, Sway?
I wish I do have the answers. These are all very big figures. I mean, Peter Abid, Atiku, El-Rufai, the fellow from River State, the former governor for Rivers State, also Dino Melai.
Rotimi Amechi.
Yeah, Rotimi Amechi, thank you very much. These are all very, very, very huge figures who can garner grassroots as well. So I don't think, I think they have, no, they can. Okay, so there's articulate, there's obedient, there's also Amechi who has
they have a huge following.
So they have a huge following, right? But I think the issue here is that we're underestimating the fragility of the opposition in its entirety, whether coalition, whether Labour Party, whether PDP. They have not been able to hold sway against the center. And that's the issue here. I don't think it's necessarily about grassroots.
What about Nigerians just being dissatisfied with the ruling party and saying anybody
so if you remove,
that's also a factor.
Right. I mean, if you remove Nigerians and the dissatisfaction, this is politics in its entirety. There is an imbalance here. And the imbalance is that there is a fragility. There is more power at the center. The APC understands how to play opposition, and that was the only way they can be able to clinch power. These other parties don't know how to play opposition. They have never had to play opposition before, and that's why they're finding it very difficult to understand the language of an opposition party. Same goes for the PDP. They were in party for too long. Same goes for the ADC. They came out of resuscitated from comatose. When you look at this other party, Labour Party didn't have the sway until Peter Obi joined, and all thanks to the obedient movement.
And that's one person.
Yeah, and that's just one person. So I think what the issue is the fragility. There's an imbalance, and they haven't learned how to be opposition.
May I say something? Yeah. Whatever happened to the LP? Now, I bring this up because the LP had the strongest movement when it came to grassroots, when it came to people who were mobilized because of the suffering. What it seems like the ADC is taking advantage of the suffering of people, that frustration. And then these big men came together. However, the LP's format was very different. These were genuine people who actually had grievances with the government and wanted change. If you have that kind of passion, and you put it inside of the ADC, which is very grassroots, then you have a party. For now, you just have people who want second chances. It's a party of, it's a coalition of, let's say, what you call it? Frustration. They just want second chances. I'm being very objective when I say this. Not that I have any bad blood for the ADC. It's just what it seems like. Put LP power inside ADC. Magic.
There's no LP power, it's Peter Obi power.
Okay.
Then there is that. Then there's personality as well.
You know what will happen, gentlemen and lady? We'll go on a quick break. When we come back from the break, we'll continue with the countdown. This is still Breakfast Central. We're streaming live on YouTube, and we would like to take your comments as well, your thoughts on any of the stories that have made it to our top 10 list, and maybe your prediction of what will be the #1 story.
Ooh.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us on this special broadcast of The Breakfast Show on News Central TV. We're counting down to the biggest stories that made powerful headlines in the outgoing year of 2025.
Now, 2025 wasn't just about politics. It was also about, power plays as well. It was also the year that Nigeria's airports turned into live stages. And the stars, the first runner-up was King Wasiu Ayinde Marshal, a.k.a. Kwam1. Now, he made headlines in August when he refused to surrender a flask suspected to contain alcohol at Abuja Airport. And what followed was a full-blown meltdown as he tried to block the plane from taking off by standing in front of it on the tarmac. As you can see from that video there. Now, the 68-year-old Fuji legend narrowly avoided disaster as the aircraft's wing nearly clipped him. It was drama, danger, and a dose of disbelief.
Counter go, stand by the situation here, stand by, communicate your message. Pay attention, dispatch.
Good afternoon, gentlemen and ladies of the press here present. My name is Olasukomi Inde Marshall, also known as K1 The Ultimate. I am here to make clarification of the incident that happened on the 5th of August 2025 at Nnamdi Kanu International Airport local wing while about to board aircraft from Abuja to Lagos. The incident is highly regrettable because I have contributed the better part of my life in the past 50 years to the growth and development of Nigeria, my country, art and culture, both in and out of the country. I've been a good ambassador of this great nation, in and out, in very many ways. Somebody like me should not be found in such incidents. I accept responsibility and appealing to Mr. President, the country, the Honorable Minister for Aviation, the FAAN, the NCAA, and my fans across the globe to please pardon my behavior. Number one, I passed through 2 checkposts and the content of my cup was screened. Need to say I have any content in the cup. Until I got to the lounge while awaiting the boarding of the aircraft, I pour water in it because of my health situation. I need to be sipping water because I'm dehydrated, as recommended by doctor to me. Like I said, I take full responsibility of all incidents. Once again, I seek forgiveness from Mr. President, the Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who is also my father and father of the nation, the Honorable Minister for Aviation, the pilot, the airline staff, passengers, and above all, my fans across the globe, my family, for the incident. My love for the country is unshakable. I am still the darling ambassador of our nation, and I'll continue to carry the banner of this great country everywhere all my life. Thank you once again. Please accept my apology.
Dented in the history of Nigerian aviation. This 2025 alone, we had Kwam 1, Kwam 2, Kwam 3. We also had Very Dark Man and Mr. Jollof. They turned the airport into a WWE stage. Guys, I wonder what you think about this. Joe?
Royal Rumble is what we saw, especially when it started. But then again, the Nigerian aviation sector has been able to redeem its image one way or the other. Unfortunately, we did see another instance happen. Remember the case of the man known as Very Dark Man?
Dark.
Yeah. Along with another social media person.
No, Mr. Jollof.
Mr. Jollof. I mean, I don't know. I try to know these names, but it's hard. And then they had all of that incident. Then again, it shows that this story made it to our top 10 for the year because it's a story that concerns life, it concerns safety, and also concerns setting a standard for what is to come. And I must say, kudos to the Nigerian aviation sector. Kudos to the aviation minister. I think he was hands-on. Although what I did not really like was doling out ambassadorship as if
aviation security
as
ambassador.
If, it was a merit for doing what
rewarded bad behavior.
Yeah, something like that.
Right.
Anyway, I don't know. Olive might be thinking different.
Well, I mean, Festus Keyamo had come out to clarify why Kwam 1 was made the aviation security ambassador. But the way that Nigerians interpreted it, unfortunately, was that we're rewarding bad behavior. Call it what you may. I mean, you can punish him, you can say they did mete out certain punishments. However, coming out to call him an ambassador, I'm not quite sure about that. I think that, and I hope that this would have set a precedent to ensure that other people do not step out of line, and when they're in the plane or at the airport, they obey instituted authority. Unfortunately, Quam 1 led to Quam 2, Quam 3, and even the ones that there were no penalties for. Joe made reference to Mr. Jollof and VDM, and that was another incident that I will speak about further. But I wasn't even happy because it seemed that the kind of zealous nature that we saw with the Civil Aviation Authority, in this case as well as the next one we're going to discuss, we didn't see that with VDM and Jollof. It felt like their public apology was enough, but when Quam 1 came out to apologize, people still did not accept the apology. So do we have selective punitive measures for celebrities, certain people? It just didn't sit right by me. But I'm hoping that we do not have a repeat of that incident in 2026.
In a proper system, there would have been immediate arrest, there would have been psychic evaluation, there would have been, proper court process. But we didn't see any of that in this situation. For me, it's like we missed the chance to actually redefine nobody's above the law. And that's very unfortunate because this is a celebrity whom everybody would have heard, okay, this happened and this is what happens when you go, We even missed an opportunity to teach the man himself. It's not safe. He's 63 years old, dodging plane wings. And I'm like, is anybody thinking right, giving this guy an ambassadorship for after? There's so many different parts there we missed. And on the case of the lady and Ibom Air, on that one, I think it was a case of enforcement. If institutions enforce policies without dignity, then you've just lost all moral high ground. And for me, that situation just went away a bit too quick. I think there should have been more redress.
I absolutely agree with Zeno. One of the reasons why Nigeria is the way it is today is because there are no consequences for bad behavior. We keep encouraging it. If one or two people have been made examples of, and we would know that, look, there's certain lines you can't cross. And the fact that no one is doing time or a psychiatric evaluation or all the things they could have done.
Or a lifelong ban.
Or a lifelong ban. Or put them on a no-fly list.
Six months, guys. Don't be too mean. Just 6 months.
Yeah, well, those who are throwing punches, I think lifelong is best because, but also it also show our selective, or should I say elitist-driven or selective-driven form of treatment, right? We've seen the way Emerson Comfort was treated. Emerson, I think that's the name.
Yes, Emerson.
And then you now see in the other way, the way VDM and Mr. Jollof was treated, and also the way Quam 1 was not only rewarded, but he also had a slap on his wrist and then rewarded that. It just begs to ask the question.
And how are we sure they're even enforcing the
yeah, exactly.
flight?
Just to quickly mention, and to do a quick comparison, Comfort's case, we got information about it in under 24 hours. They swung into action. VDM's case happened November 2025, I think second week, thereabout. Till date, nothing has happened. A simple apology was enough.
Oh, they were gloating
so
online.
Woman was stripped. She was stripped of her right to dignity of human person, and that was not enough for them to swing into action. And I'm saying, whoever, we're not saying it has to be the airline or it has to be the parties who were fighting. Whoever was found, guilty, who had taken any action that deprived another of their right, or who had acted in a manner that was deemed criminal, or assaulted another person, should be made to face the law. In the case of Comfort Emerson, she would have a part to play, but stripping a woman naked on the plane is not the way to enforce discipline. And they should have taught them a lesson, as opposed to, it felt like we're rewarding them. They put out a statement saying they applaud their staff for the professional way in which they handled the matter. Professional, showing her nakedness in public, and that will forever remain on the internet. If not on the internet, some perverted people will have downloaded it to their devices.
Into the dark web.
Exactly, and it's just an unfortunate...
Are you saying some people would have downloaded it or some people downloaded it?
Already.
I'm sure they already have.
Okay, guys, 2025 was a long year. We need to move on swiftly. Thanks, guys. Let's remind you of what happened this year, which has made our number 6. In October 2025, the presidency announced a clemency exercise that pardoned 175 convicts, a move described by officials as an effort to correct past injustices and promote reconciliation. The list included people convicted of serious offenses, and one high-profile name that intensified debate was Miriam Sander, whose case became a lightning rod for public anger. The pardon triggered widespread public outrage. The critics called the exercise embarrassing and questioned the criteria used to select beneficiaries. Many Nigerians took to social media demanding explanation and arguing that clemency should not appear to reward grave crimes. And then I guess the guys in the studio will give us the remaining gist of how it was reversed and what happened, the fallout. Over to you, Manzino.
But first, let's just quickly play this very clip. It's a bit of an explanatory video of all the pardons that we saw for 2026. Take a look.
Never face any charges of drug-related matter anywhere in the world, whether in US or Russia or Nigeria or any country anywhere in the world. The president never faced any drug charges anywhere in the world. So I think it's important to establish that fact. And on the issue of whether the president saw the list, don't forget that the president is the chairman of the Council of State. He convened the meeting. He's the one with the convening power to convene the Council of State meeting. And it was an agenda. So how do you expect that somebody who convened a meeting, who presided over a meeting, and made the presentation and presented a memo and set the agenda of a meeting that he presided over? Why will you even consider that he wouldn't have seen the list? I think that is a bit preposterous for you to even suggest that the president didn't see the list. For me, that doesn't make sense. It's like somebody saying you presided over a meeting where you presented a memo and you led the discussion, so you didn't see what you presented at that meeting? I think, please, I think there are certain questions that shouldn't be asked.
Well, welcome back. That there is just a snippet from earlier this year. So we're looking at the presidential pardons that was meted out by the president. Let me start with you, Mazzino. What's your thoughts on what we saw earlier this year regarding the pardons?
For wrongdoing, and there is no measure between a light offense and a criminal offense. It was so arbitrary that it exposes the fragile trust we have between the people and the court. So why don't we believe in going to the courts or anything that comes from the courts, whether you look at it from a political angle or whether from a humanitarian angle where somebody actually commits murder, it's all the same. We don't trust the courts because we know that whatever the court comes out with after can all be changed with one single signature.
Well, for me, I would say that the concern there was the fact that they had, just like you saw in that interview, he was representing the presidency, and in that conversation, he said there that the president convened the meeting. Then why was the pushback from the public? Why did they go back and create another list? I think it goes to tell us that the one thing we've seen that's the consistent thing in this administration is not how very proactive they are, it's how they seem to roll out policies without doing their background checks or maybe their due diligence to ensure that what they're rolling out, they'll stick by it. And then they push it out, there's a public outcry, and then they come back and revise, which is what happened here. They went back to the drawing board, revised the lists, removed some names, reduced some terms, and republished the list. And that's not quite what we want to see with our governance. We want to see a cabinet, we want to see a government that rolls out policies that have been thoroughly thought through, they've done an impact assessment to see how this will impact the citizens and how the citizens will react. And while there might be one or two dissenting voices, the majority will be pleased by the outcome. Well, I think that would be my thoughts on that.
Oh, not bad. I mean, what I would like you to know, the president has the right to exercise his powers, especially under Section 175, subsection 1 and 2. They will say the president has the right to pardon whoever he wants to. But this was a list that made the headlines this year because we saw the pardon of human traffickers, drug peddlers, kidnappers, and then the popular Sanda, the woman who had killed her husband. Mm-hmm. And people had said, what would it look like if the family of the deceased saw a presidential pardon and she didn't serve her jail term, just as it was meted on her in the court of law? So the question now was, when the president had exercised his, discretionary, powers, and then the essay came on Breakfast show, and we asked him, have you taken a look at the names on this list? These are core, crime hardened criminals.
Yeah.
And he blotted out. So what are you saying? Why would you say that the president was there, just like you saw in that video? He said the president called for that meeting. He approved of the list.
Did the president call for that meeting?
Actually, we've extended an invitation to the SA once more. We hope that you would grant us permission to come on air. But the big question that nobody is asking, and we just need to table it here as we're reviewing the year. What has happened to the reviewed list? From 175, it was reviewed. Have they been pardoned behind the backs of Nigerians? The SSA to the president, Bayo Ononuga, had come out to put the review list that's been reviewed. Some names have been removed, and so on. What names were removed? The ones that were now adjusted or re-edited. What has happened? Have they been granted this presidential pardon? Are they out? There seems to be no follow-up, especially from you, Nigerians. Nobody has asked. Okay, you've edited it. What's the way forward? And then there was a case, a mixed case on Sanda as well. We heard that her name was further removed. Many said her name was still added regardless. So a lot happened in 2026 concerning this presidential pardon. Like Olive said, just to toe the line as I wrap up, is we've seen a lot of let's do this and then they track back. We've seen the NTA incidents of the DG of the NTA, Olive. Mazino. We've also seen the case of the Dubai, when they started the Dubai. We've seen the fuel, 5% on the fuel. Yeah. We've seen the one on the import and export. We've seen the
promotion of the ADC also.
Exactly.
I think there was also the one of removal of mathematics from
curriculum. And then they come out. We did not say that. So I think going into 2026, the presidency needs to be more circumspect in looking at decisions, sitting down before you put it out in the media.
And I think that's why they're sort of, will I say, stubborn-headed is not the word. They're vehemently insisting that the tax reforms go ahead on the 1st of January, so it doesn't look like, again, there's been back and forth. But over to you, Judith and Binga.
Look, I got to say, you guys made a solid point, but I do have to point out that the pardons also signaled elite isolation, right? And it also showed to the populace and to Nigerians that selectiveness is what feeds into the mindset of the ruling elite again and again and again. They've showed it over and over again, and they'll continue to. And that's what will just lead us to our next conversation.
But before you go to the next conversation, we missed out one since we're in the season of pardoning. And you're right about the elite angle the presidency looked at when it was issuing its pardon. There was a clear case of miscarriage of justice. I mean, this young man was acting in self-defense. I'm talking about Sunday Jackson. That was an obvious name that should have been on that presidential pardon list. Until there was pressure from the United States governor, from the United States government threatening to go all guns blazing. That's when the governor of Adamawa State, Fintiri, decided to grant him a pardon. I'm glad Sunday Jackson is free now. So
I mean, look at our courts and the prisons. They're filled with people who don't have their time in courts. Away from that, shall we? Let's look at the power plays and to court chaos when it comes to the Lagos State. And this time it was the Lagos State House of Assembly, which took center stage in 2026. It's pretty much was a Nollywood blockbuster at this point. And what began as a bold removal of a long-serving speaker turned into weeks-long standoff. And we had tons of conversation about this on Breakfast Extra. Now, Modashiru Obasa was removed by 32 lawmakers, and the assembly split into rival camps with competing claims to leadership and legitimacy. The chamber's corridors also echoed with shouting matches, legal threats, and a paralysis that stalled lawmaking in the state. In March of this year, Speaker Mojisola Miranda shocked the states by stepping down just months after replacing Modashiru Obasa. The question is why? And the answer is a power shuffle that had even the Governor's Advisory Council sweating in their seats. Obasa made a thunderous comeback, reclaiming the speaker's seat like a political phoenix. So should I say one of those Nollywood movies written by one of the Akimo lawyers or something, but not without fireworks, lawsuits, and of course resignations as well. We're going to play you just a bit of snippet as to what played out in March of this year, and afterwards we'll come back from reactions from Olive, Joe, and Mazzino. Take a look.
Good afternoon, Madam Speaker, distinguished colleagues. I, Honorable Femi Said, representing Koshofer Constituency 2, brings to the House under matter of urgent public importance, motion for the removal of the Speaker, Right Honorable Mudashiru Ajayi Obasa, as the Speaker of Lagos State House of Assembly. In line with the provision of section of 92, section 2, section 6, C of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, I hereby move that the Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly, Right Honorable Mudashiru Ajayi Obasa, be removed as Speaker of this House Assembly for the following reason. 1. Gross misconduct and poor leadership, including perpetual lateness to legislative sessions and meetings. 2. High-handedness and lack of regard for honorable member at all times, intimidation and suppression of members, including inciting members against one another. 3. Financial impropriety, misappropriation of funds and lack of transparency in its management of the House of Assembly funds. 4. Gross abuse of office and privileges as the Speaker of the House of Assembly via authoritarian and undemocratic leadership style. 5. The erosion of trust among honorable members due to unethical practices and inability to carry the majority of members' assembly along in decision making. Resolved that the Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly, Right Honorable Mudashiru Ajayi Obasa, be removed as the Speaker of this Lagos State House of Assembly. I so move.
Occasionally, we are confronted with esteemed overwhelming challenges in conflict management. But as a responsible leader, we will not bring down the legislative house. We collectively build in pursuit of justice and fairness. For those who have been unfairly verified for standing on the side of fair play, kindly take note that there will always be opportunity to right any wrong. I am entranced by the dialogue of personal messages, phone calls, public show of support, and groundswell of solidarity from a broad spectrum of our society. Indeed, our nation is blessed with great men and women of honor. It is my fervent hope that the leadership of our great party will continue to provide guidance and support for the aspiration of our people. I sincerely thank you all for your understanding and support. Just like we know that the party decision is supreme. At this point, I take a bow as your Speaker, and I step down as your Speaker of this great House. But before I leave, I have a little song. And I give the credit to one of our Islamic singers. Oreni, Oreni, ibi ẹlẹ́wà dé yìí náà, Oreni. Àwọn mọ̀ pé bẹ́ẹ̀ ni ká tó sáré bẹ́yìn kan mọ̀ pé bẹ́ẹ̀ ni ní ilé wa. God bless Lagos State and God bless Nigeria.
Dear Lagosians would like to hear more from me, but I want to sincerely say today is not the day for speech making, but to appreciate my colleagues and all our leaders who have put a lot to this gathering today.
Scenes there played out from the Lagos State House of Assembly following the removal and reinstallment of Mudashiru Obasa as the Speaker of the House. Now, we're going to get reactions from Mazino, of course, Olive and Joe. But first, let's go on a short break. When we come back, in-depth analysis. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us.
Welcome back to a special Breakfast Central edition, counting down to the biggest stories of 2025. We're currently on number 5, and that's the high-octane drama that took place in the Lagos State House of Assembly, the removal of Speaker Mudashiru Obasa and his triumphant return. And I told you, the biggest Nollywood scriptwriters couldn't have come up with that, even though there's a member of a House of Assembly, Lagos State House of Assembly, who used to be a Nollywood actor, Desmond Elliott. Zeno, did you see this coming? And beyond the theoretics, there are serious issues of transparency, accountability, misappropriation. There were stories of a gate being constructed for billions of naira, and all of this was just swept under the carpet, in-house issue, let's move on. And Nigerians did move on. What's your take on this?
Benga, yes, indeed, I did see our Nollywood representative. He actually blurted out...
He shed some tears.
Yeah, he shed, not just that, he actually blurted out a foul word. You remember, Joe? I could actually read
I think that was what he did.
When Mudashiru was reinstated. But I think what happened in March this year was a representation of, let's put it as a stress test for democracy, since Lagos is actually the model for democracy in Nigeria, what the national level is actually operating on. But to see this from a sub-national level gives you an idea of exactly how legislation in Nigeria happens. There is no price for representation. Instead, your representation can be auctioned out for power. One call or one trip to the center, and then you're back in power. I think it was a shame that a removal which was overwhelmingly from the majority could be overturned just like that. There is no due process, no cause. It's just, hey, this is what I want. We're going to put it there. And that was what March this year inside of the Lagos State legislature actually showed us.
Well, beyond that, I think there's also the concern about the role of the court in all of this and being able to reinstate him. A part of the argument he put forward was that this happened while he was outside Nigeria. He was also awarded damages. I was particularly excited when Miranda was sworn in. Being a woman, I was excited to see our first female speaker. Unfortunately, her tenure was very short-lived. And then another conversation that came to the fore was the role of the Governorship Advisory Council and whether or not there was a superior force over the structures that were already existing, because the gist from the grapevine was that, you know, they, of course, they had a role to play in the removal and the advising of what had happened in that time. So it's what exactly is the structure of governorship or of governance in Lagos, and should political party internal drama supersede the already existing structures of the legislature, the executive that Lagosians, Nigerian citizens voted for? Should the internal party drama override all of that? It was quite the drama to see what happened, but we're glad that, you know, we're done with that and they're back to doing what they were elected to do.
We're not glad. How about the issues of misappropriation? They haven't dealt with it. What happens to law enforcement? Accountability. Nigerians elected them, and whether they have in-house dealings or not, these are taxpayers' monies we're talking about. So we need some level of accountability. People need to speak out, and we need to see the books of the House of Assembly, Lagos State House of Assembly. Yes, we can't just sweep things under the carpet, even though they're members of a party that has a broom as their logo.
But isn't it shocking, I mean, guys, that it's the same assembly that had criticized the speaker and even read the Riot Act, you know, quoting the laws that govern their decisions, stating one of it was misappropriation, getting certain people and doing this and that. There were many counts. At the end of the day, they were the ones that you also find clapping right there when he said he's back. And
Joe, is survival. It's called survival.
I mean,
you should not be caught wanting.
Really don't understand
I'll clap for the camera. I bet you even our Nollywood representation was actually clapping himself. Don't quote me, but that's what I think. But it was just a theater, if you ask me. Once again, survival at play. It's really not whether there's a due process or whether there's consideration to the masses. My take, final take.
And then I think just to add to that, at the end of the day, it's not just about what legal support you have, what constitutional support, because Mojisola Miranda did have the backing, like we mentioned earlier, but we realized that power is beyond is beyond what's on paper. It's beyond the voting. There is power and there is power. I think I quoted that from Game of Thrones. So power is power.
It works. It works. It's okay.
All right.
Power. I think what's also very interesting is that 32 members of that House voted and ousted him. They voted for him to step down as Speaker. And it's very interesting how they were able to switch sides so very quickly in a matter of days. And that's concerning, and also it really goes to show the times are in, and that time is, the key word for it is sycophancy. And I'll leave it at that.
Very well said.
Let's go on a short break, shall we? This is where we leave this wall and get back to the seats there. I will switch gears to bring you more in-depth analysis, but first let's go on a short break. Stay with us.
You're welcome back. 2025 was the year that the red chamber turned red hot. The Senate shutdown that had many Nigerians glued to their screens, involving Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan versus Senate President Godswill Akpabio. Now, this started with a whisper in February and then exploded into a political firestorm, especially with a wild drama over sitting arrangements. The battle later escalated to allegations of sexual harassment, defamation, and power plays that rocked the National Assembly. Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan said no to the alleged advances and yes to justice. Then came a Senate seat shuffle drama, the courtroom drama, and the 100 billion naira defamation suit. Let's take a look. Most parts.
While I am aware that the matters are in court, however, I would like to state clearly that at no time did I ever attempt any sexual harassment on the said distinguished Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan or any other woman, for that matter. I and my siblings were raised very well by my late single mother. She died in year 2000, through very difficult times, and I therefore have the highest regards for women. I also wish to state that I also have 4 beautiful daughters. So at no time will I ever harass any woman, and I've never done so. In addition, even as a state governor, I was awarded various awards. One of them was the one you wish to know, the most gender-friendly governor in Nigeria. I served between 2007 and 2015. I urge all Nigerians, particularly the media, and then, of course, the members of the social media, to await the court's decision. And please do not jump to conclusions on matters of mere allegations.
I'm Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, the senator representing Kogi Central.
Kogi Central. Why are you here for, please?
I'm here to resume my duty.
Senator, please.
May I also know you, please? No, exactly. What's your designation? You are a staff of the National Assembly. From which department? Excuse me, I'm having a conversation with you. Gentleman, you are a staff of the National Assembly? You are the security. Okay, so may I know why a staff of the National Assembly will stop a serving senator from walking into the chambers to commence her functions in representing her people who have duly given her the mandate as elected and as sworn in through a duly issued certificate of return by INEC to carry out her constituted functions. So may I know why a security from the National Assembly will stop a serving senator from walking in? And can I see written authority of your mandate to stand here right before me?
We can't hear you, sir.
A written authority.
Answer her now.
I'm not going to say anything.
A written mandate.
We are here. He knows we are not giving authority to allow her to come into the complex. That is all. Please.
Speak up, sir. We need to hear you. No, hold on, because
please.
We want to know who you are and why you are here. On whose instruction are you here, sir?
it's okay. I've asked him the questions. I believe I deserve an answer.
You don't have an answer?
Where is the gentleman who stopped us first?
He's coming. I saw.
You have no answer?
You have no answer?
I don't know. Why is it? Are you not? Are you? Why is everybody coming and going? Why can't
I mean, everyone in Nigeria and outside Nigeria followed this story. Strong allegations made on national television by the Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, allegations which the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, firmly denies. There's also been allegations that she made about an attempt on her life in Kogi State. That then opened another can of worms, and it was several other reactions with court cases that ensued after that. You could see when there were also hiccups. There was an outright attempt to prevent her from meeting her constituents in Kogi with the curfew. There's a curfew and a ban, and unfortunately what seemed like a stumbling block put before her on the road, Senator Natasha Akpoti proved that there was nothing that can stop her. She flew over this stumbling block. Let's bring in Joe Benga and Judith.
Yeah.
I think I should definitely start with Judith.
Oh, gosh.
Yes, because you're a woman, and it feels like this story garnered a lot of emotion and reaction from women around the world.
Oliver, I got to tell you, and I have to say it to the gentleman in the room, and I would say that Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan was my person of the year for 2025. The amount of, I mean, to go through what she had gone through the entirety of the year and still be able to return on that seat, given all that she went through, one has to say, and seeing how she, continually went through all the loopholes to continually speak to her people and speak to the press and represent and stand 10 toes down, double down on her allegations and not backing down. I gotta say, she's my person of the year. But there's one thing that this episode really establishes for us, and I want to just make this clear, and I made points of it, so I don't want to miss it. So if I'm looking down, please bear with me. I'm looking at my notes. Number one is the electoral legitimacy that grants access to office. But the truth of the matter is, in spite of that, institutional power determines the limit of expression. We've seen this with River State, which we're going to get into, but we've also seen this year when she tried to get access into the House, she was suspended in spite of the fact that she was elected by her people. And for 6 months, her people, the Kogi Central people, did not have representation at the highest floor of the chamber. And so that really shows that in spite of your electoral legitimacy, it doesn't grant you access to office due to institutional powers that limits them. Another was that public support does not automatically translate into institutional protection. Visibility can amplify your voice, but it can also accelerate contentment. They're going to contain that voice. And she refused that at every turn. And why this really matters is that this episode will shape behavior going into 2026, because future dissenters in that house, whether in the green or red chamber, if they do not calculate more carefully, the Senate leadership will feel validated in enforcing discipline, and the public will remain alert to how power responds when challenged from within. She challenged the powers, and by every time she tried to speak up, she was silenced.
Very well said, Judith. I absolutely agree with you. The biggest part for me is the deprivation of representation from her constituents, because we're a democracy. And let's also not forget that there was an attempted recall process that failed woefully. They got the signatures, but they didn't pass INEC's scrutiny and evaluation. But having said that, it also exposes fault lines in our political system, especially against women. We saw the misogyny, we saw what happened between former Minister of Education, Obi Ezekwesili, and Senator Nwaboi, the exchange of words and things like that. And one of my biggest takes is it's really, really sad that the senators, even former female senators, her colleagues, there are very few senators. It's an absurdity that we have such amount of women in our parliament in the first place. They're not represented enough. And the few ones there could not even back their only. She had legitimate grounds to speak. It was her story. They didn't back her, and it was just very, very sad to see. And it also made the international press. Yes, it was news everywhere in the world. Sky News, Australian news, it was everywhere on international media, and it didn't really speak well for the institution of the National Assembly. The courts had to wade in, and the time elapsed, but she still served her 6 months suspension. The people were deprived of representation, and she's back now. And news is that the White Lion himself, yes, the man that has a huge case on his neck with the EFCC, plans to contest in 2027, and he plans to go for the same seat, Kogi Central.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that pans out.
It's a big one. It's a big one. And this also calls to question Nigeria's anti-graft agencies. Are they really working? If they were working, then there's some allegations around that going for 2027. But then again, let's not segue so much away from the subject. Currently, let's also remember that there's a case in court. Even the wife of the Senate president has also taken...
suit.
Yes. Has
Talk
taken,
about love. That's so romantic.
Natasha to court as well. So she, in one of her recent tweets, she says she likes it that she heard they've sued her over 100, how many was it, 100 billion?
100 billion.
And that, she can't wait. One thing we also need to notice, it's a hard nut to crack to actually present a case before the court and prove to the court what sexual assault really means and how it happened. What started off as a story, first of all, invited us, snowballed into what we saw, that led to almost 6 months of her people not being duly represented. And then again, she said the helicopter idea was from her husband. Her husband told her, you know what, they were just sitting down and he said, why don't we do a grand entrance of the helicopter?
And it was indeed a grand entrance.
Oh, gosh.
Were we watching a movie or something?
It was just brilliant.
And it's so also shocking that the governor of the state, His Excellency Ododo, had also agreed to the request made by political allies to block the road. Remember the press release that you are not allowed to move on the road using a convoy or whatever, and the roads were blocked. But to their surprise, she had used the helicopter. But we're not going to take away the point here.
There was also a ban on gatherings and campaigns as well.
Yes,
she had all the odds were stacked against her.
Bottom line, the case still continues, and we're going into 2026. We will see more happening, especially with this case of the Senate President versus Senator Natasha Akpoti-Udoga. I don't know. I mean, Olive is a luminary what do we call Agbega?
Legal luminary.
Legal. Can you tell us?
It's more than 10 years at the bar.
You know the case is in court. You don't want to preempt the court, but
sub judice.
Sub judice. Yes.
And I don't mean Judith in this case.
I knew you were coming, so I was smiling.
We're not subbing Judith.
I was waiting for it.
But I mean, there's another thing that I wanted to say, regardless of who was right and who was wrong. Yes, those were strong allegations. The allegation about sexual harassment and threat to life. I think why Nigerians reacted against the Red Chamber in the way that they did was because it felt like she wasn't even heard. The moment she submitted, she tried to dissent. Imaswen, I've forgotten his full name, the Senate Ethics and Privileges Committee said her application was dead on arrival, that her dissentment was dead on arrival. So it felt like they had already made a judgment, a decision, before they had a chance to even hear what she had to say. And therein lies the confusion, that Nigerians had regarding the matter, because matters of sexual allegations or sexual assault, they're very strong issues. They should be investigated. And I always said, and I say again, that regardless of who was right or who was wrong, the matter should have gone to court. If the court found out that the Senate president was guilty, then he should be made to face the law. And if the court found him innocent, then Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan should be made to face the law for defaming him. But the question is, will she have had a fair chance? Will there have been an opportunity for her for this matter to be thoroughly investigated with fairness? It looks like from the jump, they were all just against her. And another issue that we haven't touched on is why she didn't garner as much support, particularly from the women, seeing that they're very, very underrepresented gender. We have about 4 of them, and she didn't seem to garner the support. Particularly, Senator Ereti Kingibe was brought to the spotlight, and many Nigerians said they were waiting for her next entry to see how she would fare, because they had expected more from her, especially because she also had her own difficulties. But let's move on now to another story. 2025 closed a long chapter in Nigeria's security and political drama with Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, who faced a landmark judgment that many expected and few accepted quietly. The conviction and sentence reverberated from courtrooms to village square, from Abuja to the diaspora. Kanu's legal saga stretched back to 2015 with arrests, extradition questions, and years of courtroom battles. In 2025, the case reached its climax. Judges delivered a decisive ruling after a trial that had captured global attention and intense editorial scrutiny. From the legal filings to the courtroom scenes and the appeals that followed, it became a national timeline everyone watched closely. And it didn't quite turn out the way that a number of people had expected it to, but let's take a look at a video recap of some of the highlights of the story of Nnamdi Kanu.
And you wonder why God cost you this. Useless black man. You don't know what justice means? You have no idea what justice means. You don't know what justice means. Useless black African people. You don't know the meaning of justice. Your constitution says you cannot try anybody unless the law is written. Show me the written law. Show me the written law. I want the written law. Show me the written law. Are you okay? Don't go close. Don't try that rubbish. Don't try it. Don't try it. Don't try rubbish. Don't try rubbish. Useless people. You don't know law. You don't know law. Your own constitution you don't respect. Supreme Court judgment you don't respect. Then why are we in the court of law? Why are we in the court of law, I ask? Nonsense. You think Britain can ask you to jail me and you jail me? You are dreaming. You are dreaming. I'm telling you that you are dreaming. And 9 charges leveled against me. This place where I committed this crime was London in the United Kingdom. Yes. When my lawyers came to see me, I had a discussion with them about how I'm going to defend myself. I told them that no court in Nigeria has jurisdiction to try me. Because since this offense was committed in England, so they said.
It's only a UK court that can give a Nigerian court the authority to proceed, isn't it?
Yes, based on that, they removed London.
Based on that, they now amended the charge again and removed London.
Location of the broadcast.
Location of the broadcast. Contrary to section 196?
174 of the Terrorism Prevention Act 2022.
In violation of their own laws. Violation of their own laws. And you want me to stand trial under such circumstances? Is that possible? Nnamdi Kanu to stand trial where these shenanigans are going on? It's not possible.
Because Nigeria.
I hereby sentence the convicts to life imprisonment for the said counts 1, 4, 5, and 6 instead of death sentence. Life is sacred to God. With respect to count 3, he is hereby sentenced to 20 years imprisonment without no option or fine. For count 7, he is sentenced to 5 years imprisonment without no option or fine.
And there you have it, Nnamdi Kanu's case that's had a lot of hiccups. Many criticized the fact that he fired his legal representation, and they wondered if that had a huge role to play and maybe implicated his chances. Joe, do you think that maybe that might have played a role in the chances he had and how the case turned out?
Talking about that here in the studio as well while the video was playing. Just like Judith also highlighted, because we think that would have been an opportunity for him to have possibly relaxed and so on. I mean, you're a lawyer, and you would agree with me that when you have someone in court, it's always a case of you must respect the court. Isn't that so?
Yes.
So, but we didn't see that. We also saw the sacking of his own, his legal team, his lawyers, and then he wanted to do it all by himself. We do understand that the accused may have been reading a lot under the law, learning a lot, and then he felt, listen, I can represent myself. But away from all of that, which we cannot say adds more to the conversation, Olive, you also recall bringing that too, that there were times where he had highlighted the fact that he was picked up in a country that was outside Nigeria. Right. Many had indicated that was much more like a case of extraction.
Yeah.
Why would you pick up someone who did that? There was a denial first, and then it followed suit. And that started from the late President Muhammadu Buhari's tenure up until now. So we saw a stretch of this case so long, and then where he was moved to, Sokoto, we do here. And that was far away from anywhere closer to the southeast. So this is something we're going to look forward to. Maybe in 2026, will there be a different angle to this conversation? Right. Maybe, I don't know, guys. I don't know. Yeah.
This has been long drawn, and it finally came to a head this year with a sentencing, but he does have a right to appeal, and we'll see how that goes. But the good thing is that justice has been served, and in any issue under the sun, there will always be debates, and people will argue both sides, but the course of justice has been made. It's left to his legal team to put up a greater defense and see where the appeal goes.
Right.
And I mean, that's just my take.
My take is that this case is a politically sensitive matter, and it hinges on separatists and state sovereignty. And Nigeria has always been very, very cautious when it comes to separatist agitation, especially when it comes to the southeast. And so to some critics, they would argue that justice became slow, strategic, but most importantly, cautious and meticulous, right? But the case also extends to something we're not looking at beyond the courtroom, and that's the southeast as well. Because it became a symbol of marginalization and also grievance for the southeast, which he heavily represented. And nationally, it was also a test as well, like I said, for Nigeria, how much we can tolerate in terms of conversation of separatists or marginalization or the Nigerian sovereignty itself. And so, but larger, if we widen that net internationally, it really confronts and asks questions about our due process and human rights, which internationally, critics have argued that this case really infringed on his human rights, especially with the extraction, or some might argue abduction of Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya. So there are many layers to this, but the outcome would have inflamed one constituency over the other. And so I understand why they were very cautious and they were so slow. I mean, reading out that judgment.
That was a long one. That was a long one.
It was drawn out, and it was. You can tell that it was meticulous and important. It was. They had consequences.
There were disruptions. He disrupted the
proceeding. Yeah. I mean, Olive, our legal expert in the house, can give us a roundup of what really went down then.
I mean, I want to add to what you've said. You did point out his unlawful rendition from Kenya. The Kenyan High Court declared the rendition unlawful, illegal, unconstitutional, as did High Court, Anambra State, court. But another thing that must be asked here is his explanation of why he fled Nigeria was that he fled for his life and that he was being attacked. Members of his family were killed. And shouldn't that count for something, especially in a country where we have people who have been branded terrorists, who have been spoken for? These people come back and then there's some form of negotiation. They are de-radicalized, reintegrated into the society, a society that they have terrorized. So that's the question that we did hear people ask when the judgment was released. Are there different laws that govern different people in the country and different level of criminality? If you accuse Nnamdi Kanu of being a terrorist because you say that the statement he made was insightful, what of the people who actually went out into the streets carrying out the bombings and killing people? Should a different set of laws apply to them? These are the questions that come to mind when we talk about this. But we'll still have more to come. We're going to a very quick break. When we come back, we'll be bringing you our top 2 stories. Stay with us.
Thanks for staying with us here on a special broadcast, bringing Breakfast Extra and Breakfast Central together in what we call Breakfast Special Broadcast, especially counting down to the biggest stories that make the headlines. Top 10 is what we call it. And we've counted from 10 all the way to number 2. But I would have loved to give you a recap so you could get to know what from 10 to 6 or 10 to 4, 10 to 5, 10 to 8, you name them, what the stories have been so far. But we will do that recap in a bit. We're going to go straight to Mazzino Appeal. He would be presenting what the number 2 story definitely is. And can you take a wild guess? Anyway, over to you, Mazzino.
To be showing a recap of everything that's happened when it comes to insecurity in Nigeria. And that's what our number 2 topic is here. Now, since the start of this year, we had plenty of hope as the authorities said that they were going to be providing us with safety, which is like any constitutional right for any citizen. But let's take this little image here, and let's give you a recap of everything from 2025 before we go into conversation with our in-house guest, Abdul Latif. Well, let's see this.
The full blown was just moving, we are just enjoying it, pressing it down. Women are being raped. Come and see, we have to be slave to the Islamic terrorists. They will force you to go and farm for them. If our local native people do not go and farm for them, then even if you farm, they know you have farmed, you will not harvest anything. Genocide. I have the statistics. I have been to the monument. I have called names. These are the names of people that have been killed in one day, one night, 501.
Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands and thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for this mass slaughter. I am hereby making Nigeria a country of particular concern. That's a legal definition. When the Christians or any such group is slaughtered, like is happening in Nigeria, 3,100 versus 4,476 worldwide. What horrible numbers. Something has to be done. I am asking Congressman Riley Moore, together with Chairman Tom Cole and the House Appropriations Committee, to immediately look into this matter and to report back to me. And I mean, like, immediately. The United States cannot stand by while such atrocities are happening in Nigeria and numerous other countries. It's not only Nigeria, it's all over. We stand ready, willing, and able to save our great Christian population around the world. This is not going to happen. The killing of Christians is not going to happen.
There we have it, a narrative from outside the country, only because Nigeria failed to actually make its own narrative, tell its own story, and that's what our security implication has become since 2025. And there are very many questions, but I'm not going to be having this conversation all by myself. On the musical chair of Breakfast Central special show here, we have Abdul Latif, who is head of research here at News Central. Abdul Latif, thank you very much for joining us. From your perspective here, let's talk about 2025 when it comes to security, the hope that we came into 2025 with and what we might be leaving without.
Okay, well, in 2025, we had a lot of expectations, improvement in security, looking at the budget and how much is being deployed to battle insurgents and terrorists. However, we saw that at the start of the year, things looked a bit on the balance. However, by March, we started having cases of violence. For example, we had the mob attack of 16 people from Kanu who were mistaken for bandits, and they were summarily mobbed and killed. And then you have the cases of bomb blasts, in Borno, in spite of the effort from the state and the military, the police. Then we had cases of interception. Surprisingly, we had about 18 soldiers who were intercepted with arms, alleged, suppliers of bandits and other non-state actors. We had policemen who were arrested for that. In any case, we had cases of bombings, we had killings, abductions. Niger State surprisingly had one of the highest cases with 315 abduction in one. Yeah. Yes, there's bombings too.
It's in Zamfara State, if I'm not wrong.
No, in Northeast. That is Borno State, yeah.
So,
yes.
On Breakfast Extra during the weekends, we have this thing called the strips, where we take a look at what the daily editorial cartoons are from all through the week, and then we analyze them, because comedy is a way that people really get to understand what's going on. Our producers are going to help us now. We're going to put up one cartoon from Bulama Mohammed, who draws for the Daily Trust. A very interesting artist, this. And what he does is capture people's sentiments on paper. Let's take a look at our very first one here, which is how we were going into 2025 with the hope that Nigeria was going to have a sort of manageable security apparatus. Unfulfilled promises. 2 years ago, 2025, this was our middle mark, but it didn't seem like as if we were going to get there anytime soon. For Bola Tinubu, it might have seemed overwhelming. I've got 2 years and I haven't even scratched the surface when it comes to security. Does that hope still remain, Abdul Latif?
The only thing we can continue to live with is hope. But Nigerians are getting tired of, the repeated sing-song of hope, hope, hope. And Nigerians want to see more. They want to see more arrests. They want to see more people penalized, apprehended and penalized. Because sometimes when you keep terrorists and non-state actors in custody for too long, you allow for their accomplices to plan their exit, either through jailbreaks or other forms of attack. So if someone is complicit, you need to ensure that the dispensation of justice is done as quickly, as swiftly as possible, so that we have more space for other criminals and miscreants to feel.
If I was to ask you what state in Nigeria or the indicator for insurgency, would you say it was Borno? The reason I ask is because of that I want to show you here, which was also put together by Bulama.
Let's take a look.
In this strip, he indicated a moment when, in March of this year, Babagana Zulum, the governor of Borno State, was indicating, well, with all his statements, that we've got a problem here. We've got a resurgency of insurgents. And that really captured, we're going to have that up, that really captured what was happening then. Would that have been a turning point for Nigeria if we had taken this seriously from March this year, instead of which to get that narrative changed by the outside world on Truth Social, Donald Trump?
Yeah, one of the things I like about the governor of Borno State is he is very realistic. He does not try to paint a picture of what is not there. You get it? So when he mentioned that really there is a resurgence, what I had expected from the security forces is a concerted effort to double up, to checkmate the resurgence. What you would notice towards the end of the year, I think in November, is an especially delicious moment when insurgents from the ISWAP camp against what do you call them? Now the two camps, Boko Haram and the ISWAP camp, engaged themselves, and 170, around 170 to 200 of them, they killed themselves in one day. We've not had that, coming from the military. I mean, you engaging the bandits and killing as much as that number in one day. So in any case, that was a plus for us. We don't know the factors that led to that, but it's a good one. However, we know that because of the area they are located around the Chad area, it allows for influx from across the Sahel, Niger, Cameroon, Chad, northern Nigeria, and all that. So it's a difficult terrain to really manage, but we're hoping, we lost, a senior ranking military officer, exactly. So regardless of what we thought, even that case, we have not gotten a full disclosure on what happened. How did a brigadier general got caught in between, insurgents and died?
With Donald Trump and the talk of a Christian genocide very loud, it seems to be like it's a religious war. On Truth Social just the other day, he congratulated Nigerians as a Christmas Day message, saying, hey, congratulations and happy Christmas to even the dead terrorists. That framing versus the framing Nigeria is going with, which is just insecurity. How does that hamper the narrative for Nigeria?
Yeah, so the framing that Donald Trump's continue to put our insecurity problem is problematic, in the sense that when you continue to say that it is a Christian genocide thing, you blank out the number of people who are killed who are not Christians. For example, Zamfara had the highest number of deaths by insurgents, by bandits, killings, about 1,755 in the first half of this year. But it doesn't seem to get the kind of attention. The fact that people have died is enough for us to have concerted efforts. Their religion doesn't matter, their tribe doesn't matter, their ethnicity doesn't matter. In fact, the first set of people who are the victims of the bandits in the northwest, for example, are mostly the Hausas and the Fulanis. The abduction that happened in Kebbi, for example, was mischaracterized by a lawmaker in the U.S. as Christians were being abducted. It doesn't matter who is being abducted. It turned out that almost all of them are Muslims, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that the bandits that attack them are apprehended and killed. All the time when we have to recover people who are abducted, we do not get to hear if the bandits were killed, if monies were exchanged. You cannot talk to bandits and expect them to merely release these people. If they release the people, what are you doing with the bandits? Are you tracking them? Are you apprehending them? Did you kill them? We don't get to hear that part. So it's problematic.
What about religious sentiments in Nigeria?
So a lot of Nigerians they oversimplify issues and make it a religious thing or a me versus you thing. But bandits, when they come to you, do not ask, are you Muslim or Christian? Are you Hausa or Fulani? Are you North or South? You are as good as meat for them. If you are highly placed, especially, they know they're going to get more money from you. So mischaracterizing it by saying, okay, this religion, that religion, oversimplifies it. Anybody would have been caught. In fact, even if you're a Babalao, if they catch you, yeah.
So I guess we have to tell that now, and it has to be loud, because what we are getting internationally is not what it should be. Final strip here. This is question is whether Christmas, as what most of the people in the North see it as, is what we see it as here. There was a final strip by Bulama, and it's very interesting, this one, because it actually has a depiction of a Christmas tree being mistaken for, or rather, guns being put together being mistaken for a Christmas tree. The shadow of which, yeah, there you have it there.
This is an especially creative artwork. I mean, there will be a lot of talk. Yes, yes. You know, you look at it and it shakes you to your bone marrow. How do you celebrate with all of this, you know, overshadowing the joy that should ordinarily come with celebrations, you know? So you have the, like the miasma of insecurity overshadowing a moment that should have been a joyous moment, because ordinarily people go out to celebrate. We do a lot of things during festivities like this. A lot of people move to the, you know, move home either to the east or to the south, you know. But now you're mindful. You don't want to be in a vehicle where you're being intercepted by bandits or terrorists or robbers, as the case may be. So this is an iconic, you know, drawing in the sense that it tells you that beyond we wanting to celebrate, there is something, an overhang of fear, an overhang of terrorism, you know, in the space.
For joining me to do the segment here on Insecurity Niger. We do hope that at the end of the year, well, it's today, we do hope that 2026 is going to bring us better security. I'm hoping that state policing will be a major thing to be discussed. We didn't have time to talk about that today, but state policing might be something that we begin to look at fervently for 2026. Now, that will be it for this segment, but let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll be joining the guys inside of the studio for more analysis, and I think our #1 topic for 2025.
All right, so welcome back, and the entire crew is seated here as we wrap things up. #1, it's been a roller coaster from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. These stories have come differently. I mean, 2025 gave us political drama, but none quite like our #1, by the way. So, are we ready for #1, guys?
Drum roll.
Drum roll.
Are we doing a recap?
Nah, no recap, because there's a lot to talk about this #1. I don't know if anybody guessed #1 right, but this is our #1. The next video will show you what story makes it to the most talked about, biggest controversial story from Nigeria.
I wish we had drum rolls.
Yeah.
Drum rolls.
Here on Breakfast.
No, you have drum rolls.
Let them take a look.
Having soberly reflected on and evaluated the political situation in Rivers State, and the governor and deputy governor of Rivers State having failed to make a request to me as president to issue this proclamation as required by Section 305, Paragraph 5 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, it has become inevitably compelling for me to invoke the provision of the Section 305 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, to declare a state of emergency in Rivers State with effect from today, 18th March, year 2025, and I so do. By this declaration, the governor of Rivers State, Mr. Similaye Fubara, his deputy, Mrs. Ngozi Odu, and all elected members of the House of Assembly State are hereby suspended for an initial period of 6 months.
I cannot give my kidney or my liver to anybody. I won't. If that is the only reason for me to be loyal, I will not be. But I will not do the wrong thing. I will stand on the side of right. I make bold to say it. There is no security agency that in this state that I've called any day to go and do something wrong. I've never. I don't have any need for it. But I know what they do. And they keep failing because God has left them. If you dey follow Fubara, no dey go corner. Fubara, they tell you something. If you dey follow Asuwaji, no dey waka corner. Fubara, they tell you something. See Fubara tell you something. if you dey support Tinubu, no follow corner. You dey hear wetin I dey talk? We dey support Tinubu, we no dey follow corner. That is the second stanza. I'm gonna take that one.
Whether you are supporting Tinubu, that one we have taken it up long. Yes, so Tinubu's issue is not an issue. Do you understand me? Tinubu's issue is that nobody should come in there to tell me we are for Tinubu. I am mandating. Who is for Tinubu University? That cannot give you any ticket.
All right, so there you have it. Number one, Rivers Rumble, the heavyweight clash between Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his former godfather, Minister Nyesom Wike. The drama escalated with members of the Rivers State House of Assembly, by the way. They've been given 100,000 naira each.
Which they rejected. They rejected it.
Guys, let's just go straight into this. Number one. I mean, why would this make number one conversation?
Because 100,000 wasn't enough.
It will make number one conversation because it set a precedent for what we might be seeing in the coming years. First of all, with the state of emergency, which we all rightfully declare that the president has the right to, ensure that he declares the state of emergency. What was a bone of contention, however, was the fact that he suspended a democratically elected governor in Rivers State, which then led to the sole administrator being put there. So this is not the first time we've seen a president activate his right to invoke the state of emergency. However, what we did see was that when President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan did that, he was advised not to suspend the governors, and he listened. So the question was, could there have been a way to do this without suspending the governor? Now, what's made it worse is that there's now been a Supreme Court judgment that now has said that it's okay for the president to suspend any governor. So he can suspend any democratically elected governor. Now, what does that mean? There are concerns that if we have a president in future that is not pleased with the performance of any governor, with the slightest issue in the state, he can declare state of emergency and suspend him.
Yeah, I'm glad you're saying, sorry, Coach. I'm glad you're saying this, Olive, because there was a lot when we look at the emergency rule, whatever was happening in Rivers State did not amount to an emergency rule. There was no violence. It was unconventional. So,
they tell you that they cited blowing of pipelines.
So blowing up of pipelines is not new in Rivers State. It has happened over and over again. So what he said was, if you quote the president, if I paraphrase him, it was a complete meltdown of law and order, which was not the case in Rivers State. And that was very unconventional. And so critics argued that it wasn't about them, it was about political stability, but most importantly, cooperativeness between the governor and the federal might. And that didn't happen, hence the emergency rule. That's how I see it.
I mean, I was going to come from the same angle, saying that the incidents or the things that happened that culminated in the declaration of a state of emergency, they warrant a state of emergency in the first place. Because if you look at other states, the epicenter of terrorism, banditry, the northeast, the northwest, there are worst issues that have happened there that has led to serious loss of lives. How many lives have been lost in Rivers State in the last due to violence? 0. But the president went ahead to declare a state of emergency. And we've seen, I mean, with the luxury of hindsight, we've seen how that has panned out. Nigerians were very angry, they were supportive, and the governor looked demoralized. I remember one time, he was speaking at a church, in a church service, and he said, look at me, do I look like I want to go back there He looked like he had given up on politics. But look at him today. He's the one that is singing, Fubara, they tell you something.
Well, first of all, I and Olive were talking about that song. Oliver's learned it. It might be the next national anthem. And then Olive actually
The problem is to compete with on your mandate we shall stand.
We'll get to that road.
Which, in my opinion, should have been number one.
When we get to that bridge, we'll cross it.
One story.
You said the song says, if you are following...
If you dey follow Tinubu, no follow Kona. Fubara, they tell you something.
What is he telling us?
That he has learned his lesson from the past.
Or maybe what he's telling you is, if you are following the president, follow him with your full chest. Don't come out and say, I'm in PDP, I'm in APC.
Oh, who is he talking about? I don't know. You're not supposed to tell. But here's the thing. Here's what I think regarding this whole issue. I always like to come from the side of the perspective of the common man in all of this. The obligation of the governor is to the people. Yeah. And for a very long time, it was all instability in River State. After this whole presidential intervention, visit to Abuja, Wike sits down with Fubara and also the president, what did you think the outcome was going to be? We all suspected that he was going to jump ship. I said this on Breakfast Central months before he actually jumped ship, didn't I, Judith? And then eventually he does. Most people are saying, why would you jump ship so easily? But then there's another angle to look at it from, and that is this. He has an obligation to the people. And if for the past how many months legislation in the state has stalled his processes, helping the people get what they want, whether it's light, water, whatever, it's stalled all of that. The best thing, you've got only 2 years to go. Let me just simply align with power so that I can provide my people what they need. Did he do anything wrong? There is the question I always ask people as a person who has the responsibility of the entire state.
I don't think so. I'm looking at the current state of the People's Democratic Party. I mean,
I'm looking at the current wave of defections
People's
as well.
Democratic Party as an executive, if you're seeking re-election, I mean, it looks like self-sabotage because they're conflicting.
But remember, he doesn't. That's not assured.
What's not assured?
It's not assured that he was going to...
That he's going to take the ticket?
Exactly.
What if that was what was on the table? Either you defect or you're not going to have the ticket to run.
With everything that had been happening, did you think that he was actually going to?
I think he will.
He thought he was going to go for a second term.
I think he's going to go for a second term, and let me tell you why.
And that it wasn't going to be scuttled by powers that be.
So there are two things as I play here, right? First of all, state does not have autonomy. We've seen it play out in the entirety of 2025, that state do not have autonomy, and the center is where power lies. And if you do not align with the center, you are not going to survive. It doesn't matter the party that you're at. Hence why we saw Adeleke quickly defect from the PDP. Wait, hang on. Just a second. That's why we saw, what's his name, Adeleke defect from the PDP to the Accord, because the PDP has been split at the center, 1. 2, the House itself also had issues. Remember, they were moving to impeach him as well. And so, even if he was going to stay after that 6 months, even if he was going to run, he might clinch the ticket for the PDP. But the PDP for the River State was already split into half. And from what we've seen, the autonomy of the state is controlled and ruled by godfatherism, and that is who? The FCT minister and the presidency. So I think that he looked at his future and said, I need to run. I need to stay. My future matters. Would I ever get access? Because remember, the retirement house of a governor is the assembly, national assembly. So he knew that the only way was to defect, play ball with them, and then go for a second ticket.
I want to piggyback off, what Judith has said, in that he, of course, weighed his options, and it seemed that staying in the APC would have been the best option because
for who?
For Siminalayi Fubara.
No, what about the people of River State? You don't think that?
So that's the thing. I think we've now come to the conclusion that politicians, like I did say at some point during the show today, politicians will always choose themselves.
But you're getting me wrong. I think he chose the people.
How?
So this is what I was trying to say from the start. He chose the people because he has a mandate to them, to provide for them. He's responsible to them. And this is not happening. It has been happening since he's taken office. Because of all the, quagmire, hullabaloo that's happening. Yeah. So, hey, let me provide you people with all you need, the amenities, the legislation and all, even if he's fighting with them. And that's what he did. You people cuckoo, take. This is what I can afford now. He said himself, was it you who said that, Judith? Or was it you? And he said he didn't want to go back there anyway. But before I leave, please, let's have a semblance of peace and governance in this state. And that's an argument to be had, I know. But did he jump ship because of himself, selfish, or for survival reasons? Or was it based on his mandate to the people?
Two truths can question.
Because he started off with the mandate of the people at the start of the mandate.
But it wasn't working.
It didn't work. That's the thing.
So the thing is,
do you continue and knowing fully well that you are going to leave the mandate?
You can't go to certain fights if you're not fighting to the death. You can't do half and half.
And
the way that he wanted
to, politics.
That's what we're saying. Like in this particular fight, Wike is not a pushover. Wike is a master strategist. He's a master politician.
I give him that.
Right? So if you are going to fight Wike, you have to go guns are blazing, boots on the ground. You can't do corner. So in this case, regardless of the fact that yes, Fubara did have the support of the people in Rivers State. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. Rivers State is also a very important. I mean, you asked what of Alex Oti and why Alex Oti is able to thrive without aligning himself to the center. Rivers State is a very important state in the plot of determining who gets to the presidency. Remember what Wike did during the last elections, how he frustrated the efforts of the PDP. Right. You know, he wouldn't allow them access. He really frustrated their efforts.
With his G5 group.
It did seem like he was inadvertently making way for the APC.
No, he said he was.
Exactly. So Rivers State is a key part in the grand plot. Whoever gets there is, you know, in a way, is very important to the center. So he, right now, feels like a segment.
I would like to know your take.
I think I was looking at the time. I think our time is
Let's hear your thoughts.
Jay, you've been doing this for 10 years.
Fubara says he's 001.
Yeah.
I have my ID card, he says. Wike responded a few days ago, 001 is nothing because we are in charge. So, in other words, we're
in charge of what, PDP or APC?
He said he's in charge of the state.
I don't think Wike is running politics of the party right now.
Members of the assembly, I mean, they had a gathering with Wike just a few days ago, and they bought him a new car. What we're seeing now is core politics. 2026 is going to be very interesting. Because Fubara now has the mandate, according to him. And he's now with APC. He has aligned, therefore he has.
Yeah, but he hasn't aligned with his members of the House of Assembly.
No, they said IBA saved 600 billion in the account. Okay, Fubara came. They said Fubara is spending from the 600 billion without accounts to the assembly. The assembly have called him to come. And he sang that song. He said, we follow.
Yeah, so was the 6-month suspension in futility? Because we thought the 6-month suspension was to mend faces and to bring peace.
It has achieved what it was set out to do. Which I don't think was it because hang on, because there's a part 2 maybe, but that 6 months was to put everyone back in order. If you think you have power, let me show you who power is. I'm going to suspend you. The state assembly is going to, the National Assembly is going to back the suspension, and your House of Assembly is going to be dissolved, and let me see who will it. And then I'll put an administrator, then you come back on your knees begging, and then I'll reinstate you.
Judith has this all planned out in her new book, which you should buy.
Just to say what she's saying, I think both of you are correct, depending on who you ask. Was the 6 months effort in futility? Many would argue that the 6 months was to test the resilience of the Nigerian people and see how well you can push the Nigerian people. And when they tried out the 6 months and, you know, there was nothing, it seemed like people took it. Now the court has gone ahead. There's a court judgment.
The town hall.
So
different from
you got in trouble, didn't you?
You moderated.
They almost gave you a death slap.
No, I was not there. I was somewhere else.
But Joe, one last thing, and it's to Olive. While you talk about Fubara, Wike, how did the people of how did the people of Rivers State do? Did they do anything at all, or just sit down and watch a spectacle? Could they have done anything?
They were counter protests.
They were divided.
I don't think those were protests. They were jamborees.
There was protests and counter protests.
But if you check, majority of the people were in support of their governor. They didn't want this drama. They wanted stability in their state. They were behind their governor. We went to Rivers State and we felt the pulse of the people.
Once again, did they do enough? The people of Rivers State.
I don't think you can do enough.
I don't think it was just the people of Rivers State.
I'm asking this question as a test of grassroots politics. If you're truly behind your governor, shouldn't they have spoken out more? I know they're going to come for me.
I think they did, Mazino. I think they did, and I think it's unfair to say they did not. That's why I keep saying that grassroots politics doesn't hold sway when it comes to federal might. grassroots politics has never held sway. It can only hold sway at a local level, a local council, local chairmanship. But when it comes to the issue of the center, you can protest as long as you want to do. You know why? Because the National Assembly, which gazettes everything, and is a rubber
But it wasn't even just a Rivers State problem. I think it was a national problem. I think that we abandoned Rivers State. Nigeria as a whole, you know,
But
should have
PDP governors
there's only
went
so
to the
much
courts, in
influence.
fairness.
There's only
They
so
went
much
to the
influence
courts.
they could have been able to muster. Because what happened in Rivers State can happen in
Joe
any
is
other
rubbing
state.
his hands.
Okay.
Where's the gauntlet? We've wrapped things up. Anyway, our producers decided to surprise us, so we can tell you that Kule is bringing in something for the team. We have a special.
I love that.
Is this why Kule is properly dressed today?
What do you mean?
Oh, thank you, breakfast.
Thank you.
Thank you, breakfast team.
From this is coming from Jasiri?
No,
This is coming from
breakfast.
Oh, the producer.
Oh, gosh, you guys, thank you so much.
And it looks, I mean, you guys must have spent a ton on this.
Yeah.
It's really, really expensive.
Do you want to cut the cake?
No, we're not cutting it.
No.
Why we should cut it? We're going to, I think that's how we end the show.
That's how we end the show. I want to thank our viewers.
Okay.
I mean, we do have astute, serious viewers who follow us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for supporting Breakfast Central all through the years. Thank you to Benga, thank you to Judith,
Thank you.
Olive, thank you to Mazino. I pass. Who else want to say?
No one.
It's
I
Joe.
want to say a big
Thank you to Joe as well. Thank you, Joe as well.
Thank you to you too.
Thank you to our team behind the scenes who make the magic happen. Lakumi,
Collins.
amazing. Collins, Mava. I mentioned amazing. Benny, sorry, I almost called him Bernard.
Yeah, I call him Teddy A.
Thank you so much, Benny. Thank you, everyone, Kule, and to our directors. If I start to Anisetters, Mayoko, please, everyone behind the scenes.
And also big thanks to our management as well. Big shout outs to the editor-in-chief and the managing director, Mr. Kaide Akintemi, who's been supportive of everyone on this table. Also to the director of news, plus the director for programs as well, Tolu Adileru Balogu. Not to forget our producers on Breakfast Extra. They're in our ear, Mava, Collins, F. Young, and not to forget Matthew, who is no more with us. Is alive. It's just not.
He's in Abuja.
He's Abuja. I'm big.
And thank you to our STOs, thank you to the sound team, to the engineers, you know, everyone. It really takes a lot. It takes a village to make the show happen. But
we have a video.
But we cannot say thank you without thanking our virtual team. There are those of you who are consistently in our YouTube chat. Mokunye Chukwemeka, this is a special shout out to you. Thank you for always engaging with us on YouTube. Thank you to Annie Chinedu Brown, Lillian Onoha. You know, there are a number of you who continue to engage with us every time. And there's someone whose name, Ajibade, I've forgotten his first name.
Callers and
Thank
also
you so
everyone
much.
who
We really
calls on the
appreciate
show.
you.
Yeah.
And we hope we can do this and even better in 2026. Our callers, our analysts as well, who come in every week. Thank you for making the show. I hear you have a video.
Dr. John,
Amechi,
Mr. Abi Baruna.
But final question before we
Olusegun.
leave. We're out of time. Do you think the extra team should switch? Maybe we should go to weekend. They switch to
You would never be able to survive.
No, I think we're okay like this.
We're fine.
No, I don't think you survive.
Let's maintain the status quo.
He said, oh, you won't be able to survive that week.
You're trading in your weekends for everything
you
else.
can
So
do
you guys,
Okay,
you
I
had
think
such
we're
a
okay
nice
like
time in
this.
our
You
set
can do
today.
it.
We even gave you
Do we
cake.
still have the video or not?
Anyway, there's a video of us preparing for this show. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
There's a
guys.
video?
Are we wrapping up with the video?
Yeah, we're
But we're
wrapping up.
supposed to cut this cake.
No.
Can we go on wide and cut this cake, please?
Okay.
Please. Can
we all
cut the
join?
cake?
I think we have I think we need to stand up a bit.
For sure.
1 year, for 1 year, for 1 year.
Cheers to a wonderful 2025.
Juju.
What does it mean?